Okay, think about a company like Google or Apple for a second. What are their biggest, most important assets? It's not giant factories or warehouses, right? It's invisible stuff. And that's a huge problem because it means the way we measure a company's real value is, well, fundamentally broken. So let's dive into how a new approach might finally fix it.
Just look at this chart. It's an incredible story. You go back to 1975, and a company's worth was pretty straightforward. It was all about the stuff you could physically see and touch. Almost all of it. But fast forward to today, and that picture has been completely turned on its head. Now, the overwhelming majority of a company's value comes from things you can't see. This isn't just a little shift, folks. It's a total economic revolution.
And this brings us to the core of the issue. If most of a company's value is now totally invisible, how in the world can our old-school accounting tools, which were designed for an industrial world, even begin to make sense of it?
Yep, that's right, 84%. And let's be real about what that number represents. We're not talking about office buildings or company cars. We're talking about the power of a brand, the brilliance of its software code, the mountains of user data it sits on, and maybe, most importantly, the collective genius inside its employees' heads. These are the real engines of the modern economy, but on a traditional balance sheet, they're practically ghosts.
So, you might be asking, how have we been trying to measure this stuff up until now? Well, the honest answer is not very well. The traditional method is kind of like trying to measure the heat of an oven with a ruler. You're just using the wrong tool for the job.
And this really lays it out perfectly. On the left, you've got your classic steel mill. Its value is easy, right? You can walk around, count the machines, look at the inventory. It's all right there. But then on the right, you have a modern app. Its value is in things like algorithms, network effects, brand loyalty. You can't just count those things, but my gosh, are they powerful. The old way of doing things has a fancy name, the perpetual inventory method. But what it really boils down to is just adding up receipts. It tries to figure out the value of something like a brand by simply tallying up all the money that was spent on advertising or R&D over the years.
And here's where it gets, frankly, a little absurd. This whole method completely ignores whether the investment was any good. It basically assumes that every dollar you spend on R&D creates exactly $1 of value. Nothing more, nothing less. I love this chef analogy. It's like saying a world-class Michelin-star dinner is worth the exact same as a burnt piece of toast, just because the ingredients cost the same. It makes absolutely no sense. But what if we stopped trying to count the cost of the ingredients, and instead started trying to measure how good the meal actually tastes? Well, a recent paper in European Financial Management does just that, proposing a totally new and much smarter way to see all this invisible value.
So here's how this new idea works, and it's pretty elegant. Instead of counting costs, it looks at performance. First, it just measures how good a company is at turning its physical stuff, its factories, its cash, into actual sales. Then, and this is the really clever part, it statistically strips away all the other obvious explanations, like the company just being huge or having a monopoly. And what you're left with, that's the secret sauce. It's a pure score for the power of its invisible assets. They call it intangible intensity, but honestly, you can just think of it as a company's skill score.
And this quote, straight from the researchers, really nails the core idea. Intangible assets aren't just things a company has. They're a force multiplier. They let a company be smarter, faster, and way more efficient with all the tangible stuff it already owns.
Okay, so this new score sounds pretty smart, but does it actually predict anything useful? Does it work in the real world? Well, the answer seems to be a huge, resounding yes.
And the results are just wow. Researchers found that companies with the highest intangible intensity scores didn't just do a little better, they consistently beat their peers in the stock market by an average of 3% every single year. In the world of finance, that is a massive game-changing advantage.
But wait, there's more. It's not just about the stock price. This score is like a master key that unlocks a whole bunch of other positive signs. Companies that score high are better at making acquisitions. They're smarter about how they invest in their own people. Their accounting is cleaner, and, no surprise, they're way better at attracting and keeping the best talent.
So when you put all of this together, what does it really mean? Well, it suggests we might need a whole new way of thinking about what value even is in today's economy.
And this could solve a huge puzzle that's been bugging investors for years. Why has that classic value investing strategy, buying companies that look cheap based on their physical assets, been doing so poorly?
This new research gives us a really powerful answer. Maybe it's because by focusing only on that tiny slice of visible value, value investors have been missing the most important part of the entire story.
Which really just leaves us with this one giant critical question to chew on. If the main tool we use to judge a company, its balance sheet, is literally missing 84% of the picture, well, it really forces you to wonder, doesn't it? Are we all just looking for value in completely the wrong place?